multidimensional manner, I mentioned that in the near-Earth level, astral living can be very boring. People lead very boring lives. How can they make progress if they want to change? So people on the near-Earth level is quite, as I just mentioned, is quite a drab place, and people are sort of getting caught in this level, and they feel not much has changed from their life. And I met people on those levels when I had an out-of-body experience. They wanted to get out of it, and they didn't have any idea of how to get out of it. But it's not so different to what we do here. People need to find a spark, they need to find an interest, and very often it happens when people meet other people. You know, they get together in groups and they pool their resources, their knowledge, and inspire each other, you know. And out of this drive to inspire each other, to promote more positive feelings, comes a change in their atmosphere, very subtly, you know. And that is a self-activating process. So once people get to know that when their attitudes change, their surrounding changes gradually, you know, and they may not even notice it by much, but suddenly their environment becomes a little bit lighter. So the energy they receive becomes a little bit brighter. So it's a gradual progression towards a brighter environment. And that's a lot easier on the astral plane than it is here, you know, because here we are, let's say, we are in the middle of bad weather. It's raining, you know, flooding, you name it. We can't see a way out of it. Whereas on the astral plane, everything is very dynamic. You know, the moment our mood changes, the environment changes slightly. You know, that may be happening in a very subtle way. For example, I mentioned in the past, let's say you live in a very drab environment, the tree doesn't have any leaves in front of your house, the grass is dying, you know, and suddenly you notice when your spirit lifts, suddenly the tree in front of your house sprouts leaves, which in turn will fulfill you with a certain amount of joy, which in turn will again reflect on the environment, and things will gradually improve. I have experienced that people can change from absolute hellish life within a matter of minutes to absolute joy, you know. And that is a beautiful thing on the astral plane. We are not condemned unless we are insisting to keep ourselves identified with our circumstances, and we don't want to really move out because we cemented our identity in certain levels, you know, and we don't want to progress because we are so attached to our circumstances. So yes, once we are on the astral level, we have got all the opportunity to get out of it. Very often what people also experience, they will have helpers and friends, you know, who will come to their rescue, you know. So this really only applies to very negative levels. Now the other question is with regard to my own experience. Have you ever had any frightening experiences while out of the body? Yeah, but these experiences were twofold. I had some frightening experiences because my teacher on the astral plane, who was a Chinese master, he put me through some very gruesome tests. And I found out I needed to overcome these tests because I had to overcome fear. Fear is a great stumbling block in our spiritual development. If we are fearful people, we have to work with our fear to overcome it in order to progress, you know, and fear can have various various causes in our lives. So we need to confront them. Fear comes out in our dreams, and that's why it's good to practice lucid dreaming, because dreaming allows us, if we become aware, to confront our fears and to actually confront them and overcome them. And then the other negative experiences I had on the astral travel was when I was sent to the lower astral level. Now, what happens with me, I don't very often seek out where I want to go when I have this experience, and I find I'm in connection with I would say my higher self. I become sort of like shoved into certain directions, and even when I get into very dark planes, I don't feel affected by it, because I'm still in the here and now state of awareness, this state of awareness which gives you a feeling of security, of safety. And the underlying state of joy never goes away. And that puts you in a position where you can help people. You are in a very dark place, but you have still got the connection to your higher self. You're not identified with it, and that puts you in the position of becoming a helper, no matter how dark the realm is. But I have been to some really dark places, which I described in my book. My books, one was where I was out of curiosity initially. I wanted to see how much truth is in the idea of certain people who are suicide bombers, who believe they're serving their religion by killing themselves, in the process killing a lot of other people who are not subscriber to their own belief. And I went into this place, and it was the worst thing I've ever experienced. So I've documented it in my book, and it has been rewritten, and you can Google it online. You will probably come across the article. And there are a number of other things I encountered right in the beginning, where I met people who were in a very, very unhappy position, who were victims of their own mindsets, And so these dark areas exist, but it doesn't mean we are affected by it when we visit them. But I've never come across a malignant entity who tried to attack me or to harm me in any way. I've never experienced anything like that. I have been in nightmarish scenarios, for example, trying to help people who just died, who were fighting with their own, demons, and I was sort of drawn into their situation, and I tried to sort of calm them down, and I got a bit of an idea of what the fear they were going through. But I was never attacked or threatened by anything when I was out of my body. And the thing is, if you come across malignant entities, very often they may not even be aware of you. They may not know you exist. And when I went to the dark place on the lower astral plane, where these terrorists were roaming around with guns and shooting each other, or shooting their thought forms they created, they were in a state of war. And then when I appeared, they tried to shoot me and attack me. But what happened was the bullets sort of just plomped out of their guns and fell to the ground, and they just didn't have any angle on me, and there was no way they could get to me. So that's the thing. And also the other thing is, if you have an out-of-body experience, you can always remind yourself that you are able to, at the worst-case scenario, that you're able to go back to your body, or that you can simply tune into your higher self, by reminding yourself of who you really are, and feel it. So that was question 5. The other one is really quite interesting. Did you get any insights about your core personality for learning about your past lives? In my first book, I described a number of past lives which I experienced. And the way I experienced them just you would experience things in this real life, in the physical life. I was drawn into a past life, for example, and I have to say that every life I was drawn into, that wasn't what I've chosen, but I was pointed towards this life, and every life I was pointed to revealed to me a character trait which was part of who I was. And every time I entered this kind of life, I realized that was a trait that came to the surface in the past life, which I had to come to terms with or overcome. And it wasn't always very pleasant. And when you read Multidimensional Man, you could see that I was quite an unsavory character in some of the past lives. I remember in one life I was some petty tyrant. I was just out to grab money, and I didn't care of the effect I had on other people. And I visited this past life by, first of all, what happened was I saw an old man lying in bed, grasping for air, and I felt really sorry for this old man. At the same time, I was hovering above his bed, and I realized that I was out of my body from the position of this dying man. And at the same time, and this is what made it really interesting, I was observing from my meditation position the situation. So I could identify with this person who was dying, seeing myself from an elevated position out of body and observing the whole scenario from my meditation point of view while experiencing it. Now the interesting thing was, not only did I experience it, but I had access to the whole life this guy had led. I understood everything, what this life was all about, and I could feel, the waste I had created in my life, the emptiness. I had no family left. I was completely on my own when I was dying. Now that was a very, very important lesson. And in another life, I saw myself walking around a church as a church elder, and sort of carrying at Christmas time, and I was strutting around, and I was so full of my own self-importance that I felt almost sick when I watched myself. Some arrogant chap who was so identified with his role as a church elder and felt so superior to everybody else that I felt almost sick when I came back, But I recognized that these were all things which had a little bit of a memory. I had a memory of these things, And if you read the book, there are some stories which actually coincided with the present life, where I met a person I had killed 600 years ago when I was a revolutionary, and the person turned up in this life and ruined my career at the beginning. But I also experienced some very, very positive lives, because we have so many facets to ourselves, and some of them were very positive. They were very good, where I did a lot of good, with people. And then also there was one life where I met my master in ancient China, where we were old friends, and he turned up to teach me. And in that life, I was already on a very highly spiritual path with him, you know, and sort of, but it shows all these aspects which we gather over our journey through the lower dimensions. They are all part of who we are, and it is a blessing when we actually get to know them, so that we no longer are identified with these aspects, you know, so we are liberated from these aspects. So this is all very positive. Yeah, I think that's basically it. So if you want to know what a bad character I was, I recommend you read the first book which I've written. But it applies to all of us, you know. We are no saints, you know. We may think that, but we have the shadow side, which is very important because they are part of our experience, which we evolve on, you know. So yes.